Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Devil Engine, a new instant classic that just released on the Nintendo Switch and PC. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Protoculture Games and publisher Dongan Entertainment, Devil Engine released in February of 2019. So it's available on the Nintendo Switch and the PC via Steam, which also happens to have a demo. I highly encourage you check this out if you like what you see. I'll include a link to the Steam page down below, and it should be coming to the PlayStation 4 in the future. So, here we are at the main menu of Devil Engine, and right off the bat, I can tell you that this is a game that I've instantly fallen in love with. It's just incredible, and part of what makes it such an easy game to love is just the amount of polish that's been put into it. So this is the PC version, and under the options, you've got so many great features for improving performance and frame rate, some UI options that'll allow you to tweak things to your style of control, which is really nice, but the things that I feel really raise this game above are all the extra content they've added. So, throughout the course of your gameplay, all the time you're accumulating points, those points will be added to a lifetime point total. And through that lifetime point total, you'll be unlocking options. So, under this extras menu in the options, we've got, so far, all these different bullet styles, so you can change the way the enemy bullets look. Graphical filters, which we'll just scroll through some of them so you can see. Scan lines, aperture grill, zero orange, so it looks like Zero Ranger, which is awesome. Bad VCR, flight vision, and off. There's like hot-blooded mode that I've unlocked. There's just unlocking things through playing just feels so good to have that sort of feature there and present. We also have this set of challenges which are unlocked in the same way, and these are like brutally hard. You will die, but it's great that there's that content there that you can unlock and challenge yourself against. Diving into the game itself, we've got only arcade mode available at this point. There are actually a total of 8 game modes to play in, so I've only really just like scratched the surface, despite the fact that I've played this for quite a bit of time. And then we have our difficulty selection. By default, you only start with very hard, and then you will unlock very easy, which is the mode that we'll be playing in today. There's also all these great little captions that come under the labels for the difficulty throughout the course of your loading them. So right this time we've got very hard, Devil Hunter, and very easy, human. You can start the stage on stages that you've completed in your primary continue, and then we've got a quick little button check before we jump into the game itself. So the game just has this great presentation. As we start up, we've got this kind of like BIOS loading screen before we actually dive into stage 1. So Devil Engine is a standard horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up in that it just follows that kind of progression. As far as a feel, this game really reminds me of titles like the Thunder Force titles or R-Type in the way that it feels. The game itself isn't like easy by any stretch of the imagination, so it kind of captures that same difficulty that those ones have. So as far as base mechanics are concerned, we have the ability to shoot, but there's also so much more than that. We also have the ability to change our speed. There's 3 levels, and in the options you can set what your default level is. That's important if you have a particular speed you want to always set to. So those are like, we're currently at the mid option. You can change it to 3, or you can change it to 1. Throughout the course of all the stages, we come across mid bosses, and immediately, if you're playing on like hard versus easy, you'll go and see that there's been quite a bit of differences at this point, and the enemies are like definitely noticeably more difficult on the higher difficulties that you play on. With that sub-boss out of the way, we continue on with the stage. So this brings me to one of the sections that I have a minor complaint with here in just a moment. So So let's talk a little bit about the power-up system. So there are 3 total power-ups in the game. We start with the spread. There's also the L, which is the laser, and the H, which is homing. Each definitely serves its purpose, but for my money, the laser is my favorite by far. There also happens to be 1-up power-ups that you can find, at least 1 per stage. They can be important in adding to your... Let's go ahead and pick up the homing, so we can show that off. And it can be important in being able to continue your play. Although you do unlock additional 1-ups through gameplay as well. So every 5,000 points that you accrue, you'll get an additional bomb, and then every 50,000 points, you'll get an additional life. So that brings me to some of the other mechanics that I haven't talked about. So you have bombs that we're earning, and I'll start using those against the boss. For each of the 3 weapons, your bomb will be different. For the laser, it brings out 2 additional options which provide additional firepower support for heavy damage, and we'll use that against this core right here. And we also have... So that's me using the bomb. And boom, you got that core. For the spread, it gives a forward rocket attack, and then for the homing, it fires a barrage of homing missiles, and those are your 3 different bomb types. Which brings me to one of the features I have not talked about, and that is the burst. So we have a burst, which we can use for kind of like a defensive ability. It will absorb bullets around our ship, so that we can survive in situations which might be kind of dicey. But it carries a penalty for using it. When you use your burst, you reset your multiplier, and it's a little bit different when you're fighting a boss. But normally it will reset it all the way back down to 0. So you can use it to absorb bullets and survive situations which might be otherwise deadly to you, but at the same time you will be resetting your score multiplier and not allowing yourself to get as good of a score as you possibly can. Alright, so we've made it to stage 2 now. And most of the stages have a pretty different style to it, which is part of what brings me to the comparison to Thunder Force, as I feel the base stages for that all vary in different ways. Oh, one thing I've forgotten to talk about when it comes to the weapons. So you can level up from a level 1 weapon to a level 3 weapon, and if you die, you happen to be reset 1 level. The thing to note though is you can only level up a weapon if you collect that particular weapon type. So say we're on the spread here and we collect a laser, even if we're at like level 2, we're not going to end up with a level 3 laser, or rather level 3 spread, because we end up with the same level as the one that we pick up if we get a different weapon. So here we are at the sub-boss of stage 2. This one's pretty neat. He's got all these different weapons, and you can destroy him by either just attacking the main body itself, or if you destroy all the weapons, then that will also end this boss fight. So we just have the main cannon left to blow up, dodge the missile barrage, and boom! So there's another neat feature that I haven't talked about. So if you happen to use your burst on a power-up, it will, if it's not the one you're currently equipped with, it will change it to that particular type. Then if you happen to hit it again while it's the type, or rather if it is the type of weapon you're equipped with, but you want something else, then it will split it, and you'll get the option of the other 2 weapons. So if there's a power-up on screen, you always have the ability to make it the power-up that you need or want. You just might be sacrificing some score multiplier in the process. I feel it's a really neat feature, being able to give you the option of choosing what weapon you want at all times. there's definitely a lot to like about like that system, and even just the way the burst works, being able to survive certain situations just at the cost of score. It's like really, really excellent. The game itself is actually like very hard, even on the easier difficulty settings, so kind of expect to die a lot as you're learning the way that the game plays. So here's the boss of stage 2, this like awesome fire flamethrower equipped mech. He's got all these different unique attacks, and that's another thing. The boss fights in this game are excellent. They're all unique with their own different twists of how they play. And boom, after a little bit of life loss there, we've taken him out. So, let's talk a little bit about minus flavors then. There's not really much negative that I can say about this game. It's just so good. So really, like, learning the stages is the only area that I feel that there's much I can complain about. So in the first stage, there's that section where you start moving up that shaft vertically. And that's like kind of a little bit of where I have an issue with this style of shoot 'em up, where it's difficult in that sometimes you don't know what the stage is going to do, so you're surprised and you lose lives by like maybe crashing into a ceiling because you weren't aware that the game was going to start scrolling in that particular direction. And this stage is another one where it's kind of a bit of that. You don't necessarily know where the enemy shots are coming from, because you've got this giant worm in the background that's actually firing shots at us, and you might be missing that if you're too focused on what's happening in the foreground. So those like minor complaints aside though, plus flavors, there's just like so much to love about this game. For one thing, the pixel art is like gorgeous. From the opening animation that I went and showed to the way that the stages, the enemies, the bosses, everything just has so much polish. And you've got all those unlocks and those extras. That's a huge plus flavor that like really sets this game above most other shoot 'em ups that come out these days. And then like lastly, the game just has an incredibly good feel. So if you're a fan of titles like Thunder Force or R-Type or Gradius, this is one that I can heartily recommend. And even if you're not a fan of those ones, if you're a fan of horizontal scrolling shoot 'em ups at all, this is a must play. So definitely, if like you have a PC, like check out the demo on Steam. As like it's a great way to go and try out the title, to go and see if it's really to your liking. But there we have it. Devil Engine served up for your enjoyment. So the flavor on this one really, really is exquisite. It's like definitely earns like my highest recommendation, as it's a title that I've like fallen in love with, like I said, instantly. Alright, that should go and wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.